Have you ever opened a jar of honey and thought, this could belong to my great-great-grandma? Or stood over a flat, sleepy blob of dough and watched it puff into a proud loaf and wondered, how did that happen? Stick with me. We're cracking 2 kitchen mysteries today. Why honey seems to last forever and how dough turns into bread like pure magic. Riddle time to kick things off. I'm sticky, sweet, annoyingly long-lived, and made by buzzing workers. What am I? Hold that thought. We'll answer it soon. Meanwhile, another teaser. I start flat, breathe invisible bubbles, then wake up fluffy and proud. Who am I? Keep listening. First up, honey. Short version. It's not magic, but it sure acts like it. Bees collect nectar, then mix it with their own special enzymes and store it. The result is a thick, sugary treasure that doesn't play nice with the things that usually ruin food. Why? Because honey is super concentrated with sugars. That high sugar level pulls water away from anything trying to live there, so bacteria and mold can't get comfy. Bees also add enzymes. One of them slowly creates tiny amounts of hydrogen peroxide when honey gets diluted, which is like a microscopic keep out sign. Honey is slightly acidic too, and often kept sealed in a jar or comb, so it's not picking up moisture or dirt from the air. Put all that together, and you've got something that resists spoilage, like a champ. Sometimes honey turns grainy or solid. That's crystallization. It looks odd, but it's just sugar crystals forming, like nature's candy. Heat the jar gently, and it'll go back to being liquid. Fun fact, archaeologists have found jars of honey in ancient tombs that looked preserved. People have been enjoying honey for thousands of years. Pretty wild when you think about it. Okay, answer to the first riddle. Honey, told you. Quick joke. Why did the bee get married? Because he found his honey. Yep, grown worthy, but it gets a smile. Now flip the pan. How does dough puff up and become bread? Short answer. Tiny helpers or chemical reactions make gas that gets trapped in the dough, and the dough's stretchy network holds it all together. The main players are yeast, tiny single-celled organisms, or chemical leaveners like baking powder. Yeast munches on sugars and releases carbon dioxide and a bit of alcohol. The CO2 makes bubbles. The dough traps them. The dough puffs up, and after a trip through hot oven land, becomes bread. Sourdough's a team effort. Wild yeast plus friendly bacteria add not just rise, but flavor and tang. Baking powder and baking soda are the quick routes. Mix, react, release CO2, and boom. Pancakes and quick breads get airy without waiting for a yeast party. What holds the gas in? Gluten. When you knead dough, you build a stretchy protein network. Picture making a net that can trap air. Too weak, the net can't hold bubbles, and you get flat results. Too tough, you get chewy, dense bread. There's a sweet spot. A rhythm bakers learn with their hands. Push, fold, rest, repeat. Proofing is the resting stage where yeast builds its little gas empire. Then comes the oven spring, a dramatic puff as heat makes the gases expand, and yeast works overtime before the heat sets the crust. When the crust sets, the shape's locked in, and your loaf stands tall. Little things can mess the show up. If it always is too cold, the yeast takes a nap, and the rise is slow. Too hot and yeast can get knocked out. Let it sit too long, and it can overexpand and collapse. Not enough gluten, and the crumb is dense. But hey, almost every problem has a small fix. Fresh yeast, proper warmth, tiny adjustments. Mini riddle for the bakers. I blow bubbles you can't see, powered by tiny mouths. And I make your breakfast fluffy. Who am I? Yeast. Yep. Now here's something cool. Both honey and bread show how tiny things change big things. Honey's chemistry preserves food. Yeast's activity transforms it. Both have been around since ancient times. Humans learned to collect honey and bake leavened bread long before they knew the words we use now. It was trial, error, and then mastery. Want to try a tiny experiment? Warm crystallized honey in warm, not boiling, water and stir. It'll melt smooth. Or make a small dough. Mix flour, water, a pinch of salt, and a little yeast. Keep it warm and watch the bubbles form. It's like watching a tiny city wake up and cheer. Here's a little challenge to keep your brain buzzing. Next time you eat at breakfast, look at your honey and your toast and ask which one used more time to become what it is. Honey took the patience of bees and seasons. Bread gets a quick miracle in hours. Both are teamwork stories. Bees collaborating across fields. Yeast and gluten, teaming up in your bowl. Let me toss in a baker's tip. You don't always need marathon kneading. Slow folding over time can do the same gluten building job. And a trick for soft crusts. Pop a tray of water in the oven during the first 10 minutes. The steam helps the crust form nicely. If your dough's not rising, check the yeast freshness and that your water wasn't scalding hot. Yeast likes a warm hug, not a sauna. Another riddle coming up. I'm made by bees and loved by bears. I never rots, but sometimes crystallizes. What am I? If you're keeping score, that's honey again. Let's be honest, kitchens are tiny laboratories. They're full of chemistry you can taste. A jar on your shelf might be carrying thousands of tiny, patient changes. A bowl on your counter is hosting a microscopic rave. Both show how small things, enzymes, tiny organisms, a stretch of protein, can do mighty work. So here's the wrap-up. Honey's long shelf life comes from its sugar concentration, enzymes, acidity, and storage. Bread rises because of gas made by yeast or chemicals, and trapped by gluten, then set by heat. These are age-old tricks of nature and craft, handed down and polished, until we can now call them science and art. Before I go, a quick little dare. Try one small kitchen experiment this week. Warm a crystallized jar of honey and taste the difference. Or bake a tiny loaf and watch the oven spring. Share the results with a friend, or better yet, with someone who thinks cooking is too hard. Show them the tiny miracles. Final riddle answer, recap. The first was honey, the second was yeast. Tiny miracles, both. Bee-lieve it. Food plus curiosity equals tiny celebrations. Keep tasting, keep asking, and keep having fun in the kitchen. You've got this.